good. You're good. So, Ryan, it's
Okay.
nice to meet you. Thank you so much for taking a minute out today.
Yeah, glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. So, before we get into your story and your life, traveling and coaching, I want to know during COVID, how did you survive that 4 year period and how did it change the way that you do things now?
Yeah, so COVID was crazy when it first started coming out. I was actually in Thailand. I was on a little island in Thailand called Koh Tao. It's one of the best places to learn how to dive in the world. It's one of the cheapest places. And everything started slowly just shutting down. The whole world started slowly shutting down. And my friends that I had made there are all booking flights home. And then I realized, I was really hoping this thing was just going to blow over and I was just going to stay in paradise. And in a couple of weeks, it was going to be gone. And that was going to be the case. That was going to just be, what happened. But what happened, obviously, we know it didn't blow over in a few weeks. And I did luckily get one flight back home. It was like people were booking flights, they were canceling flights, so I had like an empty plane back home. Um, but made it back home right before COVID and was working remotely. I did still travel a little bit. I was down to the Bahamas on a friend's boat on anchor, so it was easy to social distance there. I spent some time in Mexico during the pandemic, which was pretty open as well, but I wasn't moving all around a lot. I was no longer staying in hostels like I did when I first started, staying in Airbnbs and stuff like that, staying more put. So that's how I kind of made it through the pandemic with being a traveler and still working remotely.
So, if we were to put you in front of a bunch of third grade students at career day and one of the kids was curious about what you did on a daily basis in 2024, how would you answer them?
Yeah, so most days, I wake up, I make my coffee. I'm usually doing a meditation, some reading, and then depending on my location, I usually like islands and beaches. I like to get outside, get some exercise, walk around, maybe stop off at a local restaurant for some breakfast. Then back home, I usually am starting working around 11-ish. And then I tend to work from like 11 to 7 most days, Monday through Friday. And then after that, I might go out for dinner and drinks with some new friends, um, visit with some locals. And then I'm also planning any type of excursions or exploring after hours. My job is pretty flexible that where if I want to do an excursion on a Tuesday, I could do that. But I generally tend to on the weekends, explore more and kind of keep it Monday through Friday.
So, when you were in the third grade, what did you want to be when you grew up? What was your dream?
I wanted to be a pilot,
Okay.
and I am a pilot, but
Okay.
I'm a private pilot and I don't get paid to fly. So I did learn to fly and I do fly, but I don't get paid to fly. So I still was able to uh kind of scratch that itch without moving into that career.
So, obviously that spirit of you traveling and flying and going to new places has always been there. Take me back to where you were born and raised, and how did you kind of accumulate this skill as a coach and traveling and I mean, because the lifestyle you have, most people are comfortable in their creature comforts. They don't have that backbone. How did you develop this to not only travel but to help people get to where they want to be in life?
Sure. So, my upbringing was pretty normal. We didn't travel a lot as kids. We did a few vacations. I remember my mom took me to Arizona once when I was a teenager, and that was cool. I always loved flying. I always loved getting on a plane. Always an adventure. I still do. And it wasn't really, all of my 20s, I was working two jobs. Both in-person jobs. I was working Chick-fil-A as a restaurant manager, working fixing deep fryers during the day, and I was working at UPS as a warehouse supervisor at night. So 14 hours a day, 6 days a week. For 10 years, I did that.
Wow.
Um, and then I was always really curious about travel. I was reading some travel bloggers, Nomadic Matt, and watching, vloggers on YouTube travel, and it just seemed awesome and also a bit unobtainable, I felt like sometimes. But I read The 4 Hour Work Week and a book called Vagabonding. 4 Hour Work Week is Tim Ferriss. Vagabonding is Rolf Potts. And both those books really instilled um, just how obtainable it is to build a business, run it remotely, and just get out there and travel on the fly and go by yourself, even if you don't have anyone to go, and just make it an adventure. Um, there was one quote in 4 Hour Work Week that was someday is a disease that will take your dreams to the grave with you. And that always resonated with me. It's like it's one of those things that like ever it's really easy to put off travel and like those experiences are priceless. So I really started just like making it a priority to travel. So in 2016, I was able to take 2 weeks off from both my jobs, which was a huge negotiation to get 2 weeks off from both my jobs at the same time. I went to Costa Rica by myself. I didn't know any Spanish then. I didn't know anyone there. I had no plan other than the hostel that I was going to stay in San Jose. I never even stayed in a hostel before. So I was like, I'm just going to do this. And so I went in, I flew in, I met a lot of people there. I got everyone's highlights from the country because it was by the airport. So I met a lot of people who had just backpacked that whole country. So I ended up going to like 5 different spots: the Pacific, the Caribbean, both sides of Costa Rica, climbing volcanoes, swimming in the Crater Lake, zip lining down mountains, and just hanging out on the beach. And I just had an amazing time. It was amazing. So I came back to work not refreshed and excited to get back to work, but really like I need to make a big change because I have met a lot of people on that 2 week trip that were traveling for months and years at a time, which I didn't even realize was a possibility before that. So I came back and I was like, you know what? I told my bosses, I was like, in a year from now, I'm gone. I'm figuring something out. Travel's gonna be my new thing. So I was having drinks with friends, my good buddy, my best friend and his wife one night, and they were like, when we retire, we're gonna get an RV and travel the US. And I was like, well, wait, why are we waiting till we retire? Like, why can't we do this now? Like, we neither of us had kids. We had houses, but no kids. I was like, we could just rent our houses out. We'll save up. We'll get an RV and we'll go do a US road trip for a year. And then worst case scenario, we come back to our jobs. So literally convinced them to quit their jobs, and I quit both my jobs as well. And that was our plan, just to go do the US for a year and have fun. And worst case scenario, when we come back, we'll just get our jobs back. Well, we did exactly that. We got an RV and started out going down to the Florida Keys and then going out towards California. And about halfway through, I realized like this thing is coming to an end pretty quick. Like 6 months, I'm gonna have to like be back to my jobs, or this is not. I really want to keep this thing going. Well, I had gotten my real estate license previously. I was doing a little bit of real estate, like, along with my 2 jobs, just kind of dabbling in that. I had a good friend who was a very savvy real estate investor. She was flipping tons of houses. So I got with her and I started using my license to help find her projects to flip. So about, her and I did about 20 to 25 deals in those last 6 months that I was traveling in the RV. And I then realized, like, oh, wow, I don't have to go back to my 2 in-person jobs anymore. I'm a digital nomad. I mean, that was before the term was even a thing.
Yeah.
Um, so then I also started realizing like how she had built up passive income through buying rental properties. And so after that 1 year road trip, I came home for a couple months and I bought my first rental property. It was a duplex. Started bringing in some income in addition to um, my my agent commissions. And then after I started seeing how that worked, and I was working remotely, I went and did like 6 countries or 8 countries in 6 months, from New Zealand to China to Cuba and home. And after that, ever since, I call myself a hybrid nomad because I'm home during the summer. So I live on my sailboat, and then during the winters when it gets cold, I'm traveling somewhere warm. So every summer that I've come home, I've done flips, I've done renovations and kept rental properties, and I've wholesaled properties. And so I've just built my business around the concept of having like kind of like an in-person working season at home when I like to be home, when it's great and the weather's great. And I have buddies that are on their boats up from the Bahamas during the summer, so it's a good time to be home. Then as soon as it gets cold, I go somewhere warm and my business kind of transforms into just managing things, wholesaling some properties. And then I had a friend that I met on my travels who was working in Mexico. Um, and he was working for a company that was an in-person office job, but it was social media marketing. So he was good at social media marketing. He really wanted to travel. And so I started helping him through the process of figuring out how he could be a digital nomad. And through that process, we got him working as a freelancer on sites like Fiverr and Upwork and building that portfolio and that reputation and those reviews. Um, it really didn't take him that long, maybe 6 to 8 months to get up and going to the point where he no longer needed his in-person office job. And now to this day, he's traveled, I believe, 13 countries and he's 5x'd his income from when he was working for a,
Wow.
a boss. And that's when I realized, like, wow, I can help other people do this. I'm giving back. I love it. I enjoy it. And I can do it from anywhere. So that's kind of how I've gotten to where I'm at today now, coaching people to live this lifestyle.
Who's been an inspiration? Who's been a hero for you?
I would say that honestly, Tim Ferriss's book, The 4 Hour Work Week, was a huge game changer for me. If I hadn't read that book, I don't think any of this would have happened. Um, his story, I'm not sure if you ever read The
Yeah.
4 Hour Work Week?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just his story of transformation, building a huge business and being successful, and getting stuck in it, and then going out and traveling and figuring out how to have more freedom was just hugely inspirational for me.
So, what has been one of the most magical places that you visited that you didn't expect was going to be that way?
Hmm, that's a good one. Well, I was just in Peru recently, and Peru is a magical place, I would say.
Yeah.
Um, Machu Picchu and Rainbow Mountains. Other places that stick out, Vietnam, amazingly like inexpensive and beautiful, the countryside and you just see like people living like it was 100 years ago, out working in the rice fields and young kids herding cattle on the streets, and it's just like you step back in time, you
Yeah.
know. I did a 4-day motorcycle trip through the northern mountains of Vietnam up to the Chinese border. And every day we were riding like 8 hours a day, freezing our butts off because no one brought warm clothes to Southeast Asia. And and then they would at night we would be sleeping in like a barn that had the greatest layout of food they would put out for us, and Vietnamese moonshine and a karaoke machine.
That's awesome.
And then we would ride 8 hours just like hungover through the mountains, just like seeing some of the most epic views ever. So that's one of my top five experiences of all time. So I would say uh, there's a lot of magical places, but those two definitely come to mind.
So what motivates you every day to continue to travel, to continue to help your clients, to live this life? What is the ultimate motivator?
The ultimate motivator for me is just like having that variety and being able to have the freedom and that I can be here today and a totally different place tomorrow. It could be an island, it could be a beach, it could be the mountains. So just having that newness and walking around a new place with new eyes every day is a huge motivator for me. Also, just I really enjoy helping other people be able to do what I'm doing, right? I built up my real estate enough to the point where my passive income meets my monthly requirements for income. All right. So if I have to renovate and rent out another 3 bed, 1 bath, like that just really is not that exciting for me anymore. Like I've done it a lot. So helping other people change their lives so that they can run their business from anywhere in the world, work their 9 to 5 from anywhere in the world, or become a digital nomad. Maybe they're working in jobs like I was, which was fast food and warehouse, to being working digitally. That motivates me to keep going, keep traveling, and just help other people's live the same dream.
So at the end of the day, of all of these experiences and the evolution that you've gone through in your life, what are you the proudest of?
I would say that I'm the proudest of building up my businesses to the point where I'm able to just hop on a plane and go anywhere at any time. I also do a lot of travel hacking, so um, I really enjoy that as far as like I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but just using points and miles to fly for free and so I haven't paid for a flight in years, you know. I get excited about that stuff. It's fun. Like
Yeah.
it's like you're circumventing the system and getting to teleport places for free. So I really enjoy all of that stuff. Um, but yeah.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, everyone out there has a perception of you. Family,
Mhm.
friends, clients, everyone around you, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think I'm a free spirit that wants to really give back, and this new chapter of my life with the coaching is what it's geared towards is just helping other people create this freedom because I just know how fulfilling it is for me. So if I can do that, that's probably the most important work that I'll do in my life.
So if anyone wants to hire you, reach out, learn more about you, any of the good business, where can they go?
So the digitalnomadcoach.com. And I'm also the Digital Nomad Coach on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.
Okay. Cool. Man, enjoy
Yeah.
the next journey. This has been wonderful. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your story. It's fascinating.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you,
Hope you
man.
have a
Take
good
care.
day.
You too.
Alrighty.